Troop withdrawal so far paved the way for Turkish forces to invade northern Syria, leaving Kurds in a vulnerable position, pushing them into the arms of Assad.
We're working with the Kurds. We have a good relationship with the Kurds. But we never agreed to, protect the Kurds. We fought with them for 3.5 to 4 years. We never agreed to protect the Kurds for the rest of their lives.
Ceasefire is expected to end tomorrow. Tensions there are very high in the whole region. Today I spoke with Dr. Elie Abouaoun, the Middle East and North Africa Director at the United States Institute of Peace. He's in Erbil, Iraq, and shed some light on how this situation could play out. Dr. Abouaoun, right now you are in the Middle East. You're in Erbil, Iraq. We know some of the U.S. troops that were in Syria will be relocating to Iraq. Overall, in this region, what is the state of affairs in your perspective?
The state of affairs doesn't look really good, especially in this part of the region. I think what's happening in Northeast Syria already triggered a lot of violence and further displacement and increased risks of seeing terrorists, fleeing the camps from Northeast Syria to other places. So for many reasons, including these ones, I don't see the situation as really good in this part of the world.
What do you think is the most concerning to people like you, in the Middle East? Is it a confrontation directly between Syria and Turkey? Is it the Kurds being killed? Is it ISIS resurging?
I'm afraid it's all of the above. Well, the first thing is that it's really worrisome to see that the Syrian regime is taking control again of around 30% of Syria's territory, just flushing down all the efforts that were done in the last few years. The second one is the free hand that was somehow given to Turkey to implement its military operation in Northeast Syria, with all the civilian casualties that already fell down and that might fall down in the future. The third issue, as you rightly mentioned, is the possibility of a revival of ISIS, not necessarily in the same form we've seen in 2014, 2015, but definitely in a different type of insurgency, but still very harmful, very violent. And last but not least, the humanitarian crisis. So, in the Kurdish region in Iraq, already hosts around 200,000 Syrian refugees from the previous years. And now, this morning I was meeting some officials here, and they told me within 1 week they counted around 5,000 newcomers into KRG. And in the last 2 days, in the last 48 hours, the influx has been increasing even.
On a good day, things are uneasy between many of these groups. And I'm wondering, Dr. Abouaoun, what you think is going to happen when this ceasefire, which hasn't been perfect, but it's been something, when it ends very soon, what will happen?
I think, unless the Russians will be able to provide very credible guarantees to the Turks about how they're going to control the PKK, I think the Turks will carry on their military operation, which will lead to further instability in the region, as I mentioned. I don't know to what extent the Russians are able to provide these credible guarantees. I don't see the Syrian regime playing any constructive role in all of this. Had it not been for the Russians, I don't think Turkey would have even considered, even a temporary fire. So I think the Russians now are the main player, and I hope they will be able to play a constructive role.
Dr. Elie Abouaoun, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
You heard him say there, yes, of course, ISIS is a concern, and Russia and Assad, but maybe the top of the list, thousands and thousands of mothers and fathers and children are caught in the middle here. They're forced from their homes. They're fleeing violence, but at this point, where would be the safe place to turn? Is there one? The New York Times shares their stories.
Syrian refugees are fleeing into neighboring Iraq.
ليش اخترت اللجوء؟ واحد بس خرب بيته وينطي واحد خايف على اولاده وخايف من حياته. وانت ايش رايك من القرار الامريكي؟ قرار سيء.
We're driving near the border, following this convoy that's carrying almost 300 Syrians across Iraqi Kurdistan. They arrive at this camp, set up years ago to house the displaced from earlier wars. Now it will accommodate a new wave of refugees, escaping Turkey's attack on northeast Syria. Some have traveled days to get here. As they wait to be